Hi, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, and today is the 8th of April, 9:10 p.m. Singapore time. And if you are tuning in from Singapore Facebook, you are at least at the same time with us. And if you are tuning in from America, it is America 9:10 a.m. American Eastern Standard Time. And that's where Karen Olsen is going to come up after Dr. Subha. Dr. Subhasish, he is a talent and is adding onto the Singapore economy. And I have to say that Indians are actually one of the main pillars of the American economy, isn't it? And I think we do need talents like, Indian talents and talents all over the world to be supporting economies and to be lifting poverty up. And definitely there are lots of challenges in his field of work in energy sector. And he's going to talk about a few things. He's going to introduce himself as the expert in his area in research and development in energy, and also talk about the importance of energy in the new economy, and also the importance of R&D for the new economy, R&D for smaller companies. Why is it important? How is it important? Giving us a couple of examples. And also at the end, we're going to wrap up talking about the energy crisis that the world is facing. And people like us, we scratch our heads and we were thinking, what's actually happening to the petrol prices when you pump your car, right? So we'll be talking about all these things with Dr. Subha. And Dr. Subha is an old friend of mine. And he's also the writer, the contributor to a new book that we are in collaboration with, The Gold Nuggets for Entrepreneurs. It is going to come out in 2022 with the other international collaborators. So this is a little sneak peek, a little trailer about our book. But more importantly, we're going to introduce Dr. Subha to the rest of us in Singapore, the region, and to the American audience, the international audience who tune in to my podcast, Talk About Life, which is on 15 platforms, over 30 countries and growing, and of course on YouTube platform, Talk About Life. Dr. Subha, thank you for being here with us. It is so difficult to get you because you are flying to India and Singapore, and also so much well demanded in the R&D sector here in Singapore. Dr. Subha, could you tell us about who you are and what you do?
Hello everyone, good morning, good evening and good afternoon to wherever you are in the world respectively. So myself, Dr. Subha. So basically I was a physics major. I was a physics major from India. I finished my physics major in bachelor's and master's from India. Then right now I came here to do PhD in energy sector. So in 2016, I joined one of the reputed university in Singapore, which is ranked well amongst all of the other universities in the world. And I would say I joined Material Science Department in Nanyang Technological University, so-called NTU as an abbreviation, and the rank was 1. Can you believe it? It's above and beyond MIT, which is well-reputed university, and I joined there as a PhD student. I was lucky then. Due to my hard work, I got a position there, and I did my PhD on energy and then energy for magnetic nanoparticles for energy, basically. So I worked on magnetic nanoparticles and how magnetic nanoparticles are paving the way to solve the energy crisis. So that is my holistic topic that I can say because the audience is very widespread. So I will not go into the technical details. Rather, what I will say is that nano is the new micro. Nano is the new micro, is the mantra and will be the mantra in the future. And that means nano world we are looking at through various states, and nano world will solve many solutions. It is solving many solutions and it will solve many solutions in the future. So that was briefly about my PhD. I finished my PhD back in 2020, and after finishing my PhD, I started my own company in a venture which is called Entrepreneur First. I tried to open my own company, but there are some hiccups, and the hiccups are basically that my topic was not so natural. I was working on the same topic like magnetic nanoparticles for energy application, but this topic is a bit ahead of time. I can say that it will be mature after 5 years or 10 years in time. Right now, the world is not ready for it. So I couldn't have gained enough capital out of it. That's why I tried to move out of it, and I joined a very big, large-scale company who is working in semiconductor industry to solving the problem of how the world is using memory. That's the mantra of my company, and I would like to introduce my company also. I'm a proud R&D scientist over there. I'm a senior engineer, you can say a scientist, whatever you can say. So it's called Micron. Micron Semiconductor is one of the world's leading memory and storage solution company who is right now leading beyond Samsung, beyond SC Hynix, and beyond some other companies, some other big companies like Seagate and WD. So I'm a proud engineer over there. I'm working for more than 1.5 years. I learned a lot and I'm still learning a lot. And this life is a learning curve. I'm contributing to it. And the best thing about my work is that whatever I'm working, I'm seeing that it is going into the product and you guys are using it knowingly or unknowingly. Some guys know that, okay, Micron chip, they are using Micron disk drives, Micron solid state drive they are using for storage solution. Some guys, they don't know. But directly or indirectly, I'm solving the purpose and solving one of the problem of this large audience.
Yeah, and we know that Micron is one of the largest companies. That's a great introduction to yourself to let the international audience know what you do, because R&D in energy, that's the way to go, because we're really talking about pivoting from fossil fuel to climate change or climate friendly technologies and reducing energy consumption, increasing energy efficiency across the board for all kinds of usage and not to be too reliant on it. And today we're going to talk about R&D first. Dr. Suba, can you tell us about, the topic of R&D is such an intriguing topic. It's a huge terminology because you're talking about research and then you talk about development. Tell us, what is R&D? What does it entail? What's the definition of R&D? What does it mean? And why is R&D such a big, important issue in our lives now? We are talking about R&D in every part of the world. R&D, innovation, R&D, innovation. That is like the only route to some survival of mankind. Tell us, what's R&D?
Okay, I would like to start with a small story before I would jump directly into R&D, because R&D is such a big topic.
Yeah,
it consists of two big words, research and development, and that makes it even more intriguing, even more complicated.
Yeah.
So I would start with a simple story. If you look at any insect, for example, you take spider as an example, right? It doesn't like to stay on the ground. It doesn't like to stay on the ground forever. Rather, it starts to build its web, and then it tries to climb the web. Then build web further, then tries to climb further. Why? Because nobody likes constant. Nobody likes to be in a constant space. Everyone likes to change. Even for human being likes change. Because it's the word which is called evolution. Everyone tries to go towards evolution in a positive way. Even if they see some problems ahead, they see some hurdles ahead, that the current people, they take it as an opportunity to solve that problem and go further ahead. And in that process of going ahead and going through an evolution cycle, what we guys are doing is basically we are researching to solve a problem that falls on our path and then developing towards the forward path. So research and development is basically the path forward towards moving ahead and accepting the change in a positive manner. Yeah. So research and development is directly related to our daily life and to our future. How our life will look like after 10 years. When this question is asked in many companies, if you go and do interviews, they will ask you, what will be your life like after
In
5
10
years,
years,
after 10
after 5
years.
years, yeah.
So you ultimately, what you do before giving that interview is you research into this question and then you develop your mind to answer this question. Similarly, in any field, may it be technological sector, may it be medical sector, may it be education sector, everywhere research and development is required to have a projection path forward into the future. Your future can be uh, like somewhere else if you have a research and development associated with it. Research and development basically it strengthens your economical sector. It gives you a projection forward to balance your every front, not only economical front, your political front, your educational front, everything. I'm talking in terms of like policy of an industry, policy of a country as a whole, policy of a company as a whole. You can take anything as a unit and you can think of R&D makes them strong. And in simple words, if I put forward research and development, what it does is basically it projects what will be your future and then the work or your action item to achieve that future. That's basically research and development.
Yeah, and because it's such a big thing for people like us that's outside this field, and it seems like research and development, we're talking about a lot of science. Are you able to give us a couple of examples in the minds of to concretize this idea, in the minds of listeners and viewers? Some examples without divulging confidentiality, even your company is doing, something that you have done in the past. What are these examples in our lives? Is a result of research and development.
I will give two examples.
Yeah.
One example is from my own company, and other example is from the current situation, which is the global pandemic.
Okay.
So global pandemic is something which every country has seen. Every country has at least one person infected by the coronavirus, right?
The coronavirus situation. Okay.
Yes. Now, if the country will not project its economical front, will not do some data science study, will not what we do basically in data science. We project our future. We do some data science and algorithm. We do AI and machine learning to predict what will happen if instead of 100 people, 1,000 people will be infected. What will happen to our educational sector? What will happen to our healthcare facility? And what will happen to our economical front? Now, developed countries and developing countries like Singapore, India, USA, they have a dedicated research and development facilities there. What they do, they take the number of cases every day. They study the details of the number of cases. How many of them are severe cases? How many of them are less severe cases? How many of them can be cured at home? How many of them require medical facility and ICU facility, intensive care unit? Then they put all those numbers and do a mathematical modeling. Yeah. This mathematical modeling is nothing but your research. And after doing this mathematical modeling, they can predict that, okay, now the number of cases are 100. What will happen if another coronavirus variant will come tomorrow? Will the number be staying at 100 or will the number be going to 1,000? If the number will be going to 1,000, do we have enough beds in the hospital to cater for all our patients? If not, then they do necessary arrangements. They cover up different areas like you can see Tuas bus stand and other bus stand. They cover up, they put beds, they put intensive care units, everything to make sure they have ample capacity to cater for this increasing number of coronavirus. And this process is known as development. So you are doing research, you are projecting what might happen, and then what you are doing is you are keeping yourself ready for any adverse situation. So you are developing towards a situation where you haven't seen before, but you are ready for it. That is known as research and development. It's basically an example which everyone can relate to because of the daily news and daily articles. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So
and
that's
can
what.
I also say in very simple terms, research is based on empirical data,
Yes.
primary level.
Yes.
And development is the execution based on these data and then executing it and developing into a physical things. Am I right to say that?
Yes. So what I would say that research is kind of, if I would divide it into phases, right? Research is something which has three phases. First is the budding phase. That means you have an idea, you try to execute it. You don't have anything at hand to execute. So what you do, you start up with some sort of hypothesis, and then that hypothesis, you try to make some prototype out of it. May it be a mathematical model, may it be an experimental prototype. Then you test it out. If you see some positive result, you try to develop it to make it even more robust, to make it even more powerful. So research is something which is not sure that it will go to the market or it will go to the actual application, but development is something which in most of the cases, it goes to the actual application for the mankind. Yeah. So that's basically.
Yeah. What about the example you wanted to explain using your company R&D?
Yeah. So what I can say about my company's R&D is that my company basically makes two things. One is DRAM, dynamic RAM, which we use in our like computers and some other cases also.
And also the chips, right? Chips. Where the
The
world
chips
is talking about the lack and the shortage of supply for chips, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah,
Tell us
yeah.
your example of R&D.
So in Singapore, what we make is chips. We make 3D NANDs. We call it 3D NANDs. Basically, it's three-dimensional structured storage devices. Previously, you might have seen that the memory chips that we could put in the phones, those are basically 2D, but two-dimensional. They were super slow. They are energy inefficient. That means they consume more energy to run. And then when they save data, that lags very much. Like when you save something, there will be a green bar running slowly, and when you open something, it will buffer for some time before opening. So those are very inefficient. Right now, world is very fast forward. It is moving towards something which will take less time, have less latency problem. Now, this more latency is something which means less lag. That means more faster. Now we are moving towards a more faster storage solution, which we are making in Singapore Micron. Basically, Singapore Micron is the leader for making the faster storage solution. And there is another Micron fab in Japan which makes DRAM. DRAM is a different issue. I will not go into it because I am not directly working in it, but I am working for the NAND, which I will call SSD. Like solid state drives, okay, solid state drives and memory chips. I'm working for robust solid state drive and memory chips. How R&D plays a role in our company? Basically, I would say that our company right now is a leader in making the 3D solid state drives. And you can see in the news that Micron has first declared 176 layered 3D memory and storage solution.
And what's that and what does that mean?
Okay,
please explain that to the rest of the audience.
I'm explaining. So previously the memory and storage that we are using, it was just one plane. That means the data was stored only in one plane of the memory chip. Right now it is 176 layer sandwich structure. That means we can store more in less cost, we can store more in less time, we can store more in less space.
So that is one of the very efficient energy usage that your company has actually developed. That, I mean, that is really contributing to the energy crisis in the world, right?
Yes. What it does basically, it reduces the cost of your usage of memory. If you remember, 20 years back, the maximum memory that we were getting in the mobile phone is 128 KB, just KB. Right now, if you buy another iPhone 13 Pro Max, you can buy it with 256 GB.
Yes, like what my phone.
512 GB. 512 GB. You can store a hell lot of apps. You can install a hell lot of apps.
Videos.
Whatever you can. You can record videos, take high quality photos. Previously, just by keeping one favorite caller tune would cost all your 128 KB. Finished. Right? So that was made possible
because of the R&D
storage solutions.
Yes.
And
what it does basically, right now, all of you might be knowing about cloud storage. Now, what is cloud storage? When we save something in Google Drive or OneDrive,
cloud storage,
that goes and gets stored in some facility, which is very big facility. It has many storage space.
And it
goes, your data goes and gets stored there physically. Don't think that it gets stored in sky.
It's not the sky. So for the lay people will think that it's storing in the sky.
Yeah, it's nothing like abstract. There is a physical space where your data gets stored. And that data, when it gets stored, you try to retrieve it every minute, right? If you are a business person, if you are an R&D engineer, you try to retrieve that data from the cloud storage every time. Now you think, when you do billions and billions of operation in that cloud storage every second, every minute, how hot that gets. The temperature of the cloud storage goes up to 120 degrees.
Can you imagine, like, this is one of the results, the outcome of an R&D. Now tell us, because I've taken up almost half an hour of your time, but we would want to know, like, for a lay person like myself, for a small SME in the street, for a main street business, is R&D important, and what does R&D mean to them, and how can this concept be made relevant to SMEs, main street businesses? And I suppose it's needed to survive.
Yes, it's needed to survive. But for SMEs, actually, I can divide the phases of SMEs to certain sub-phases.
Tell us.
First thing is,
when you try to sustain as a company.
When you
try to sustain as a company for some amount of time. Focus towards R&D might not be as rigorous as large companies. It can be some percentage, some small percentage of your workload or workforce will be dedicated towards R&D, but majority of the people will be working towards a sustainable solution for which your company is known for. For example, if you go for a small company who is a milk maker, for example, milk distributor or milk provider. Right? What they do basically is their R&D is just to check the quality of the milk. And then notify the farmers that the milk quality today is slightly degraded than yesterday. If you add water or something, very small part. It's basically food officers. They are given the jobs inside the milk factory to check that, but dedicated amount of workload, what they do is they do normal packaging and distributing the milks across the island in Singapore. So the R&D space is less because their main focus is distributing the milk products across the Singapore, right? Now for that company, the R&D might not be relevant at that moment. Now, there is not one milk company. Suppose tomorrow, another milk company will come with better product, but with 20 cents less price. Then people will suddenly start moving towards the second milk. Now, to sustain over there, You need to increase your R&D facility. You need to plan forward. You need to see what as a company they did that their price is 20 cents less. Still they are making profit and their quality of the milk is better than us. And what we are lacking as a company. So if you want to be competitive, if you want to move forward, if you want your curve to be increasing rather not flat, then your R&D needs to be on a big scale, or your
R&D should
be a major contributor to your company.
Can I also say that, Dr. Subha, I'm just going to interject here. Can I say that it is also a mindset of the business? How relevant is it for an entrepreneur, someone who's going to start out, starting a business, and we're talking about very small businesses, even like a retail in the shops, maybe selling clothes or selling food. Now, how relevant is this mindset of R&D for an entrepreneur?
I would say very much relevant.
Tell us.
Why? The reason being, you need to know the taste of the people. Suppose you have a targeted customer, right?
Yep.
Your targeted customer should be finding their happiness in some of your products, not all of your products.
Very good. Well said.
You need to do some research to know why do some of the products are your market capturer, why they are capturing the market, not all of your products. Is there any competitor in your all of the products? Do you want to remove them from your like part of the sales process because they are not giving you enough profit, or do you want to do some tweak, some changes that will make your product a booming product?
Okay, one question before, but these are very, very important because you're really talking about the mindset, always continuously searching for improvement. Now, I know about this agile technology, agile mindset. How relevant is the agile Scrum framework in a development R&D?
Very much. The agility should be there. The
superior.
Yes, the agility should be there. You should have the tenacity to work towards a problem and then find the solution. And that problem can be a dynamic problem. That means if you are defining a problem statement during the start of your company or start of your entrepreneur career, it can be different after 1 month. It can be different after 2 months. So now you need to do research and development hand in hand. You need to do some research and then develop that quickly. And there you need tenacity and you need to be paranoid about the situation. Paranoia is something which is very much required because there can be someone in the company who will be your friend, but who might be friend of your competitor. Now, if your secret recipe will go to the competitor, then he will definitely go ahead. So you need to develop, but at the same time, you need to protect your database. You need to protect your
also protection. Now let's go to the final portion of our interview with you. You know, the energy crisis we're talking about, there is the war in Ukraine. You know, they're one of the producers of energy for Europe. You know, Europe uses 60% of Russia's energy, and that's one portion of it that's shaking the rest of the world. And we're already talking about energy or oil crunch even before the war started. Tell us this whole phenomenon that is making people pay more at the petrol station.
Okay, just as simple as a case when your resources are limited, but the number of users are the same.
So then you have
to pay more, right? For example, Russia was one of the largest oil exporters in the world. It is providing oil to many countries. US is one. Middle East, definitely everybody knows Middle East has a really big oil reservoir. Okay? But Russia is also one of them. Now, when one of your resources is gone, uh, like the countries, the UN Council, everybody is sidelining Russia because of what it is doing right now, which is against humanitarian policy, right? Against humanity. It is creating a war, creating a havoc. And everyone is making Russia sideline. So you are cutting off all the resources as well. When you are cutting off all the resources, so your reserve oil, your reserve has been limited. Now, previously, if you are projecting that with the current oil situation, we can go until 2050. Now that timeline will reduce to 2035
Because
Okay.
because the number of reserves are limited. Russia is cut out.
Okay,
Right?
tell us if you know, tell us some snapshot about this oil reserves.
Okay, I don't exactly know the numbers of percentages, but what I know
is there are many oil reserves in the world.
the major one is US, definitely Russia, and then in Middle East, if you go to Iraq, Iran, Saudi, all these are biggest oil exporter or largest oil exporters in the world. Right now, when you are cutting Russia, you know Russia is such a big country. So the oil reserves is also huge. It's not only oil, it also has some minerals, okay, which the export is closed right now because of the current situation, current havoc. So that's why I would say that almost like 40 or 30% of the oil reserve you are eliminating from the total, right? If previously it was 100%, now the remaining is 70%. And out of 70%, whoever is sending, the competitiveness has been reduced, the monopoly has been increased by taking this situation into effect. The monopoly has been increased. Now, two things. One is situation, reserve has been reduced. Second thing, the monopoly can be increased because one of your largest competitor is out of the market. It is sidelined. So the price can go high, and that is what is happening right now. The price is going
there
high.
under your work, is there any prediction that you can see about the oil situation in the next 1 year or two?
There is no such prediction under my study, but I am following the oil prices in India every day. And in last 15 days, the oil prices increased by almost like $1 per day, 1 Indian rupee per day.
Per day. Wow, that's a lot.
Which is like
for the ordinary people, right?
Yeah, if I would convert it to Singaporean dollar, it's like 30 cents.
Okay, and that's a lot. We were talking about
That's
this incremental cumulative effect in the logistical supply chain.
Yes.
Where everything in the world needs energy to move.
Yeah, and if you see 30 cents per liter increase in the price of the
It's
oil.
a lot. I mean,
it's a lot.
Yep.
If you think about the normal people, okay, those who are riding a bike, it's only maybe 1 liter of petrol per day. It's 30 cents per day. It's okay. What about the industries which uses oil for their production? What about the trains, the buses that uses oil every day? So the price of the tickets, the price of the travel will go up, right? But the salary increment is not in such a big manner.
It's really, really hard on the middle and the lower strata of the people. So Dr. Subhasish, it's such a great honor to have you and to enlighten us. I'm looking forward to our next session whereby you can share with us at the international audience some of your projects that you have done in the past and the significance of energy. And I think this can go on and on because this is a topic that is so embedded in our lives. I mean, no matter where you are, you need to switch on the light. You need to cook, right? We cannot live without energy. And we're talking even about phone that is charging, right? So Dr. Suba, for the last 15 seconds or so, would you like to wrap up before we come back to you? And I want to promise my viewers and listeners that you will come back sometime to continue this conversation, energy, and also a chip shortage that we didn't ever have time to talk about. I think that's very intriguing because it's almost creating a war between China and America.
China and the rest of the world.
Yeah, and the rest of the world. We'd like to come back to you. Such an intriguing 45-minute talk we have with you. I mean, I'm sitting down here listening to all these current affairs that is in front of our eyes. You know, we're reading the news every day about energy and about chips shortage. So, Dr. Subhasish, would you promise to come back for part 2?
Sure. I will come back for the part 2. And after, I will give my book chapter on the energy and energy crisis, how the world will look like with modern energy resources.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit about your chapter in the book Gold Nuggets for Entrepreneurs, and also about the chip shortage and about the energy crisis. Thank you so much, Dr. Suba, and it's such an honor to have you. It's such an enlightenment for the audience and for our international viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.